Hey guys, Harrison from Harrison's Inventions here. So today we're going to be talking about my experience in the combat slash battle bots area, specifically with beetle weight bots, which are 3-pound robots. If you see my other two videos, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, you should go watch those. I will give a very brief description of it right now though. What that is if you've ever seen the show BattleBots, where two teams create two robots and then they fight each other, and depending on either which one gets broken down or judges decide, a winner is then decided and they move on throughout that tournament. So that's basically what BattleBots are. Um, if you don't know what they are, you'll find out very soon anyway. But yeah, I just want to talk about my experience, not just building the robot, but designing, but just the entire experience together. So that's what this video is going to be. Okay, so I'm just going to start off with how I learned about it. I'm going to school to be a mechanical engineer, and I did robotics in high school, so my friend and I were looking to do that as well. I was the president of my robotics club team in high school. My friend that I'm talking about, he was the vice president. So, also, just warning to any teammates watching this, don't worry, I'm not going to mention your names, and I've blanked out your faces. If you do want me to undo that and mention you in the video, just give me a quick call. Okay. So let's get into it. So the first way that we learned about this was actually from like a club fair that we went to, as well just looking around for clubs. Also, you can see here, specifically I go to ASU, so it was the ASU Combat Ready Robotics team is what we decided to, is what I joined with my friend. You can see a Instagram post that they made here. Um, that's not how we learned about it, but that was just something that I noticed they were advertising. We found other people, we made a team, and then as a team, we would go to meetings and they would sort of explain, what is BattleBots in case people didn't know, what exactly is it that we were going to be doing, how are we going to be doing it. And the gist of it came down to that they had the resources, and that included people who had done BattleBots before for many years or 1 year, whatever. And so they were going to give us advice and experience. For our robots, they are mainly just electrical and mechanical, along with a sort of remote controller that you use to control it. So there's not really any coding involved. They're mainly just it's mainly about just how you design the robot and how you drive the robot. For a more complex robot, I'm not sure if they use coding, but I'm just letting you guys know because I thought that was interesting. I didn't realize that we weren't going to be coding in this, which is fine. We decided to name our first robot Apex Predator, and there's kind of a funny story to this. So, like I said, my friend and I, we both went to high school together, and we had this teacher. I'm not going to mention his name for privacy's sake, but he was really funny sometimes. He was a good teacher, don't get me wrong, but he did say some funny things. Like he would talk about like being an apex predator, and we thought that was really funny. So we decided to name our robot Apex Predator because it was going to be the top of the top, the best of the best, and hunt down all the other robots. So after we went to the meetings and we sort of got the gist of everything that we had to do, it was then up to us to design. So first, we started looking at some of the robots and 3D models of robots that they had brought in. They showed us how exactly some ideas of how to get our weapon to move if we were going to use a moving weapon. Sort of just what do 3-pound robots look like? Because most people who have been this have probably at least seen or heard of the 250-pound robots, but the 3 pounds, where do you even start? What do they look like? So we looked at them, at the ones that they brought, and that inspired us for our own designs. For example, many of the robots used a brushless motor for if you had a spinning weapon, you would use a brushless motor, and you would use a belt that would connect to your weapon. You can see some images here. Um, Also, they showed us different spinning weapons. There are many different types. There's vertical spinners, which spin vertically, horizontal spinners, which spin horizontally. There's also flipper bots. There are wedges, which don't move at all. there's many different types of weapons that you can choose to augment your robot with. We ultimately decided to go for a Peter Bar vertical spinner, and we based it off of this triskeleton-like design that we saw. Now what's interesting is that this triskeleton design was actually meant for a horizontal spinner. Just so you guys know, usually horizontal spinners are a little bigger and versus vertical spinners. So we had to basically turn this horizontal spinner into a vertical spinner. That was our main mission because we really, or at least I really liked the design, and so I brought it up in our design meeting when we were thinking about what kind of weapon to make. We decided to make a vertical spinner that was a Peter Bar. A Peter Bar, for those of you who don't know, is basically instead of having one singular vertical spinning blade, you have two vertical spinning blades that spin at the same time. And so we decided to go for the triskeleton type design that we had seen. And so then we got to modeling. We started by trying to model the vertical spinner. We had to go through a few different types of designs. I'll show you the one that we landed on, but we ultimately landed on one that fit our weight requirements. Because like I told you, the robots are separated into weight classes: 3 pound, 250 pound. So I think our spinners altogether weighed about half a pound, like both of them, because like I said, it's a Peter Bar. Both of them weighed about half a pound or so together. Here you can see the complete CAD model for Apex Predator and all the parts coming together. You can see that the Peter Bar is the one in the front. You can see the two blades there, and you can see how they're connected by a bar in the middle. That's why it's called a Peter Bar. Anyway, so Apex Predator was basically the main design was that you just had the Peter Bar in the front. You had everything protected inside. It used two wheels and then two smaller wheels that would just spin on their own just to try to help distribute the weight. And then we had some protectors to protect the wheels. So you can see us kind of carving out the body and all the electronics and making a few prototype 3D prints and trying to see if it all weighed under 3 pounds. And luckily, we thought it did. It weighed almost exactly 3 pounds or so. And so here you go. Here's some pictures of actual Apex Predator. You can see that we spray painted. Actually, one of my teammates spray painted it. He did a great job. And so most of the materials were made out of either aluminum, a certain type of I'm trying to remember what it was called. I can't remember what the blades are made out of, but I'll put up the name of it right here. But the rest of it was made out of a certain type of plastic. I can't remember the name, but I'll put it up here. And then lastly, we had I can't remember also the name of the clear plastic, but I'll put it here as well. But those were the main materials that we made it out of. You can also notice that we decided to get rid of the extra wheel because of weight reasons. And so yeah, so this was Apex Predator in all of its glory. Anyway, we ran into a problem. You can see here that we are trying to fix Apex Predator because if I'm being honest, what sort of happened was we made the design, we made the prototype, but we didn't give ourselves enough time to test the prototype. And so we ran into multiple problems. Some of the problems that we ran into was simple stuff like weight. We had to get rid of some weight because I don't remember the exact number, but we were supposed to be 3 pounds or under. We were like 3 pounds and like, I think less than an ounce. Whatever it was enough that we had to get rid of some weight. And so we had to take off our little wedges in the front. We had to remove like material from the back. You can see like the three little holes that we cut into our back plate that was aluminum. I think that was pretty much the only thing we had to do. We didn't have to do too much else, but there were more problems than just the weight. Now you'll see if you look at where the Peter Bar is and the belts, you can see that it's at an angle. And basically in the CAD model, everything worked perfectly, but when we put it into real life, we messed up the measurements by very slight amounts of each of the walls that we made. You see, what we should have done and what we did do in the next generation of Apex Predator is we should have 3D printed the walls that we needed and then used those measurements to cut out the walls out of the stronger plastic that we were really using. But we didn't end up doing that, or I think we tried to, but we didn't do it very well. Anyway, the point is, as you can see, everything looks kind of not put together correctly. It looks slightly slanted. It just looks off. And that was enough that it deviated enough from the CAD model to cause a problem with the spinner where it wouldn't spin correctly. Well, actually, I don't think it wasn't that it couldn't spin. I think it couldn't spin at all, or it could only spin for a slight second. It was something of that nature. But there was also one other problem, and I have a video where because of that same slantness that caused our weapon to not spin correctly, there was also a problem with the wheels that drove the robot. It did move, it moved, but it could only move in a circle. For whatever reason, the other wheel wasn't working that well. I think it was we had a faulty motor, but it was also simply like I was talking about, everything wasn't put together correctly. So basically, Apex Predator, the height of all 3 pound robots, didn't work very well. He was basically a snail. He could only move a little bit. He could barely attack. He had a little bit of armor. He was basically a snail. He was destined to die. And well, that's when it all fell down.
You were the chosen one!
So you can see us here introducing Apex Predator.
We're a Peter Bar vertical spinner. Guards, as you can see, we love our coloring.
It's a very, very fancy looking robot. Yeah? What are you guys most excited for?
And then this was right before our first battle. And so our first battle was against basically a joke bot. This joke bot, however, moved super well. You can see it here moving. And all it did was it had a spatula and it slapped us. And we could barely move. I don't even think we had our weapon was working. This was our first year, so maybe you could cut us some slack, but at the end of the day, Apex Predator was the apex of prey. Not even the apex of prey. He got slapped 1,000 times. We didn't do a single bit of damage to the other robot. And well, quite frankly, it was embarrassing for us and Apex Predator, the poor guy. But, you know, we tried to keep working on the problems throughout that day. We were trying to fix it. And, well, we didn't really fix it enough in time, so we had to go against another opponent. I don't exactly remember the name of this other opponent. We were able to move a tiny bit again. I even think our weapon motor spun for just a simple second, maybe? Actually, no, it doesn't look like it did. But he was a horizontal spinner. And he hit us, I think, once or something of the nature. The other robot was also having a problem moving, so it wasn't able to hit us a whole bunch. Again, this was mainly just first year robot builders, and we were basically just going against each other in our own school. This was more just an in-school tournament, so it was more like practice for a real tournament, you could almost say. It was a real tournament, but you know. Anyway, we got hit once. You can see it there, and we were just basically we got destroyed. I don't really exactly remember all of the damage we took. I have some pictures here, but it was pretty bad. We had to basically revamp a lot of stuff, not revamp. We had to replace some stuff or fix some stuff. We didn't take a huge amount of damage, but took enough, and we decided we really needed to fix Apex Predator. We really needed to fix him. And so we used an engineer's best friends, duct tape and more duct tape. What my first engineering teacher told me is if you can't fix it with duct tape, you're not using enough duct tape. So we duct taped it up. We put duct tape everywhere in Apex Predator. But he was no longer Apex Predator. We had this whole speech about how bad he was, about how horrible he was, and how it drove him to madness here.
Apex Predator's foundation was his pride, but after losing 2 matches and basically becoming unusable, he broke down. He then lost his wife, his kids, his family. His boss fired him. He lost his business, his car. All that remained in his heart was his rage, his uncontrollable rage. And now all he wants, all he wishes for, is vengeance.
And so that's when we came up with our new iconic name, Vengeance.
The hell are you supposed to be? I'm Vengeance.
And so we wrote it on him. We covered him in duct tape, tried to make him look, a little better, a little more beat up, a little bit more like Vengeance. And lo and behold, we were actually to fix him a little bit. So at the very end, we had already lost our 2 matches, and so we didn't do another match. I think you could do as many as you wanted, basically, but we only ended up really doing 2 because we just needed more time to fix Apex Predator, who had now, Pokemon evolved into Vengeance. And so at the end of the battle, all the robots that could still kind of move, we had an all-out brawl between pretty much any robot that was willing to get on the action. And we got so hyped up because our vertical spinner was actually moving correctly. I think we maybe hit 1 person. I'm not exactly sure. I'll show you in the video. But yeah, we were actually able to move a tiny bit. We couldn't physically move the robot that much. It was still kind of wonky in the sense that it really only wanted to go in a circle. Our driver was pretty skilled though, and so he was able to kind of make it move a tiny bit. But we mostly just were able to turn our robot, so if someone came near us, we could at least try to hit them. I think we still ended up only being able to hit someone once, maybe twice. Yeah, it was pretty fun, and we were pretty hyped up that Vengeance had actually been able to take a little bit of vengeance on somebody. But yeah. So that was the story of how Apex Predator was designed, fell off horribly, and next was the rise of Vengeance.
I'm Vengeance.